Not yet.
Okay. Oh,
Hello. We made it.
here we are.
We did it.
I hope people find us.
I hope so too. Let's
Yeah.
see if we have any viewers. I'll pull it up on a separate window.
Oh, we got one, it says here. One viewer. Hello, hello, whoever you are. Welcome.
We do have one. That's exciting. Okay.
Oh, no, we got 4.
Four. Man. Awesome.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, did you prepare a little song and dance for this?
No, I could show the title screen again. I have not built an intro yet. I was working on it, but we haven't gotten it done yet.
No.
So here's our
Done.
Here's our title screen.
Yay.
Yeah. So we got some plans, but we didn't get it built in time.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I have a logo for the corner.
Oh, that's beautiful. Here we go.
Little R for the restoring meaning.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
So
it's got a Green Man feel.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of connection with St. George.
Dawn is here. Hi, Dawn. Great to have you.
Dawn is here. Good evening. I'm glad you found us. Glad you made it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how was your week?
It was nice. I went on vacation. Went and visited my brother, my sister-in-law, and my new nephew. So,
yeah, beautiful.
Got a 4-month-old nephew now that I hadn't seen. Went and saw him, so that was great.
Oh, you hadn't seen him yet?
No.
Oh, nice.
No. So that was a nice weekend.
And they're in where are they?
Colorado.
In Colorado. Okay.
Yeah. Or if you're not from there, it's Colorado. But if you're from there, it's Colorado.
All right. I think I've said it both ways, Colorado and Colorado.
Yeah, it's fine. Most of the people there say Colorado now because they're not from there. So, yeah. Things change.
Well, I spoke to my little grandson who left me almost a month ago now. Well, at least a month ago now. And it was just heartrending, Jeremy, because as soon as he saw me, you could see his little brain doing the recognition thing. And then all of a sudden, he goes, Nanny! And then he grabbed the phone and he was just smiling into the phone.
Oh.
And then he was pointing. He'll be 2 in November, so he's like 1.5. Oh, and I'm just like, oh, he's so far away. I just wanted to hop on a plane right away and go see him.
Yeah.
And my daughter couldn't even get the phone away from him. He started crying, and then I brought him upstairs to see Papa, and he did the same little. You could see the little, and then he goes, Papa.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, it was really good. Yeah,
yeah,
it was really wonderful.
That's fun.
Yeah, so they're having a big adventure. They're waiting to tie up the last remaining legalities on a piece of land that they want to buy, and in the meanwhile, they're sleeping in the back of their car.
Oh, that's rough.
The whole family.
Oh.
They bought a foamy. They've got a big older Honda Pilot, so it's actually pretty big.
Yeah.
In the back.
But then it feels really small after about 2 days of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, and then it's going to be a bigger adventure because I think they're just going to buy a tent and they're going to live in a tent and then they're going to build a cabin and they're doing the thing.
Wow. Yeah. Well, carving it out. That's good.
Yeah.
That is an adventure. That'll make or break your marriage.
Well, they've been doing that since they got married. When they got married, they didn't build a house, but they did, but they started he's German, so they moved to Germany. And then they started a CrossFit gym like year 1 of their marriage. And they ran that through COVID, which was a nightmare for them because they just kind of
Yes.
got off the ground and then everything shut down.
Yep.
And so while they were in the lockdown phases, they bought a tiny house that had been started by a couple who couldn't afford it anymore because of the lockdowns. And so it was just a frame on a trailer. And they put that up on a lot and built it out. And then they got pregnant.
Mm.
Then the lockdowns were over, had a baby, kept the CrossFit gym going, like they've just been
Yeah.
full speed ahead ever since they
Wow.
got married.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. And now they're doing this. So yeah. They've been here in Canada since January.
Wow.
And so they're really antsy right now because they've
Mm.
just kind of not been doing what they want to be doing,
Oh, right. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hey, we got Lance here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you.
Good evening. Welcome.
Well,
I actually scanned the pages this week. You believe
that's
that?
because now you have responsibilities.
I know. I'm trying to be all cool and stuff. Like I'm trying to now I'm all like about profilicity now. I've fallen into the TLC trap.
Mm-mm. No. You just want to make it easier for people to read along. That's all.
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to
That's what it
be able to
is.
see what we're doing. Okay. This should work. I think.
Nice. Yeah.
Edit. I can even make it a little bigger. Full screen mode. Hey, look at this.
That's very nice. So we're on song 27.
I think so. That's what I had marked.
Yeah, probably because I've
Okay.
just I've reread the Sermon on the Mount a couple of times now. It's so good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll even make it a little bigger. Oh, look at this. Fancy. Okay.
So actually, didn't we do Christ commands the wind and the sea?
Yeah,
the high horned ship and all that stuff. We did
yes,
song 7.
we did. Yeah, that's okay. Here's 28.
Okay.
Oh, we did not do this one.
We did not do song 28.
No. So let's do a little prayer. Let me pull that up real quick before we get started. Since we're reading, we'll hide that. Man, I got to be careful now. Oof. Okay.
You're flying the plane.
What's that?
I said, now you're flying the plane.
Yeah, I know. I got to watch out. Got to make sure. See what comes up on the screen. It could be wild.
Just while Jeremy's doing that, everyone, I have Starlink. So guess what?
Oh yeah, that's a good announcement.
Yeah. And it's actually not even mounted on the house yet because I had to buy a mounting kit separately, which was, whatever. It's okay.
Well, it's already way better. We can actually see your face. It's nice.
Yeah.
Used to just look like a Real Player video from 2002. Which you probably don't even get that reference because you weren't around in 2002, but some of us old dogs were. So anyway,
Lance, we're reading this version here. Can you see that? It's Ronald Murphy, I believe, is the translator, and it's a little bit pricey. I didn't pay that much on it when I ordered mine, but it was a while ago when I ordered it.
I am ready to read a prayer.
Okay.
Illumine our hearts, O Master, who lovest mankind with the pure light of thy divine knowledge. Open the eyes of our mind to the understanding of thy gospel teachings. And plant also in us the fear of thy blessed commandments, that trampling down all carnal desires, we may enter upon a spiritual manner of living, both thinking and doing such things as are well-pleasing unto thee. For thou art the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God, and unto thee we ascribe glory together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and then all holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Okay, now we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I need my glasses. This is fancy. All right. Song 28. The mighty Christ heals the cripple lowered through the roof by his warrior companions. The more the chieftain's son did work every day with his followers, the more the Jews did not believe at all in his mighty power because of that. Nor did they believe that he was the all ruler of everything, people, and country. They are still receiving their reward for that, far-flung journeying in exile, because they fought against the son of the chieftain himself.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, hit it.
Okay. These remarks were probably intended to be an oblique reference and warning to the recalcitrant among the Saxons, who were also sent into exile as much as to the situation of the wandering Jew. Once the Saxons were able to identify more completely with Christianity, say by the end of the 9th century, or by the beginning of the Ottonian Empire in the 10th, then this passage would probably be heard from that time on. Sadly enough, as referring only to the situation of contemporary Jews and making no comment about the Saxons themselves.
Oh, there we go. Then the holy healer decided to go back to Galilee land with his warrior company. God's own son journeyed to his friends, to the place where he was raised and grew up as a child in the midst of his clan relatives. An army of people gathered around him. There were many happy thanes among the warrior company. Some earls were carrying a sick man in their arms. They wanted to bring him before Christ's eyes, before God's son. The man needed help. He needed heaven's ruler, the protector of mankind, to heal him. His limbs had been crippled for so many days that he did not have any power at all over his body. There were so many people there, though, that they were not able to bring him before God's son. They could not force their way through the throng to tell him about such a needy, sick person. The healing Christ went inside into a hall. A mob formed around him there, a great crowd of people. Then the men who had long been carrying the weak, crippled man, bearing both him and his bed, began to talk about how they could get him in front of the Son of God, through the people, inside to where the ruling Christ would himself catch sight of the man. Then those warrior companions walked up to the place. They lifted the sick man up with their hands and climbed up on top of the house. They cut open the hall from above and let him down with ropes into the shrine.
That is rakud, Germanic temple. This is another Germanic word the author uses for temple. The first was uiha. The literal Old High German translation steers away from such accommodation and simply adopts the Latin templum. The word rakud is of uncertain provenance. A guess, rak, may be the same word as in the Old Norse Raknar, the ruling ones, the gods. Ud may be the same word as the Saxon od, property. If so, rakud would simply mean God's property. The shrine.
They cut open the hall from above and let him down with ropes into the shrine, where the powerful one was, the strongest of kings. When he saw the man coming down through the rafters of the house, Christ understood that these men in their minds and in their feelings had a powerful faith in him. He then spoke before the crowd and said that he wanted to free the sick man from his sins. Then, in answer to that, people spoke to him, hostile-minded Jews who were spying on the words of God's Son.
The footnote there is, in the Heliand, there is no distinction or even mention made of the various religious groupings of the Jews. Where the scripture attributes a given word or action to the Pharisees or the Sadducees or the scribes, the Heliand simply groups them together as the Jews. No doubt the author would have been hard-pressed to find any effective Germanic equivalents for these groups that would have contributed to his epic. The disadvantage, however, of this, no doubt necessary simplification, is that the Jewish people have to be depicted as uniformly hostile to Christ.
When in answer to that, people spoke to him, hostile-minded Jews who were spying on the words of God's Son. They said that could not be done, the forgiving of sins. except by God alone, the ruler of this world. The ruler of the world had his answer ready. I am doing this, he said, for this man who lies here so sick in terrible pain in this hall, to make seeable that I have power to forgive sins as well as to heal sick people. And I do not even need to touch him.
The author adds the idea of, and I do not even need to touch him. This inserted remark confirms the probable importance of touching for Germanic magic. In this passage, the Heliand shows Christ's superior magical powers to that of Germanic wizards. All he has to do is speak his magic words, if he wants, and the magic/miracle occurs, as at the creation, with no further ado.
The great chieftain then spoke to the sick man who was lying there lame and told him to stand up in front of the people, completely healed. Then he told him to put his bedclothes on his shoulders and carry them on his back. He carried out the command immediately in front of the warrior companions and walked out of there restored, leaving the house hale and hearty. A great number of the pagan men, warriors, were in amazement. They said that the ruler himself, Almighty God, had given Christ greater power, strength, and knowledge than any other of the sons of men. The Jewish people, however, did not want to recognize that he was God, nor to believe his teaching. They fought him in a dirty way and waged war on his words. Thus they loaded weariness onto themselves, a miserable reward, one that still will last for a long time, for they did not want to hear the teachings which Christ, the King of Heaven, was making known everywhere, all over this world. He let them see his works and deeds every day. He let them hear his holy word, which he spoke to help human beings, and showed them so many mighty signs in order that they would be able to trust his teaching more and believe in it. He freed so many a body from deadly illness and made it better. He gave the life spirit back to the dying. The hero who was all ready to make the journey to hell, him, Christ the healer, by his own mighty power, revived after death, letting him continue enjoying happiness in this world. Song 29, the story of the earl who sowed good seed. And so he healed the legs and hands of the crippled and made those who were blind better. He let them see the eternally beautiful bright light of day. He absolved from sins the grim deeds of mankind. The Jews, however, loathsome people, did not ever get better in their faith in the Holy Christ, but they kept a hardened attitude toward him. They fought very strongly against him. They did not want to understand that the enemy fiends had ensnared the Jews into doing their will by means of their Jewish faith. Nor was the chieftain's son ever the laxer because of this. Rather, he said in words how the Jews could come to heaven's kingdom, taught across the countryside, and turned so many of these people to him with these words that a very great crowd was following him. The Son of Man said much to them in pictures, thus they could not understand within their breasts, comprehend in their hearts, until the Holy Christ would explain it by his own power to the crowd of earls in open words, and tell them what he meant. Once an enormous crowd of people thronged around him. They felt a great need to hear the Heaven King's words of solid truth. He was standing on the shore by the water, and with such a large crowd, a whole clan of thanes, he did not want to teach them up on the land. And so the good one, his followers with him, moved closer to the water and got into a boat. He told them to scull it away from the land so that all these people would not crowd in on him. Many a warrior thane stood there by the water where Christ the ruler spoke and taught all those people. My warrior companions, I would like to tell you how an earl began to sow good wheat grain on the ground with his hands.
This sentence is interesting since it may reveal something more about the culture of the addressees of the Heliand. The author carefully removed any possible association implied between his earls and sheep herders in the Christmas story. He feels comfortable, however, about having an earl sow seed with his own hands. It seems that the warrior class to whom the epic is addressed must have been warrior farmers and weather-wise coastal fishermen.
Hmm. Some of, I'll read that again. My warrior companions, I would like to tell you how an earl began to sow good wheat grain on the ground with his hands. Some of it fell on top of hard rock. It had no earth in it, which it could grow. It had no earth in which it could grow and take root and be supported and sprout. And so the wheat that was lying there on the rock was lost. Some of it fell on land, on noble soil, and right away began to grow happily and take root, thriving merrily. So good was the soil with a lordly fertility. There's another.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right.
I'm totally absorbed in the story. Two modifiers in the passage look suspiciously like pious puns aimed at giving a message to the people on the shore / the Saxons. The soil is noble, and its fertility is lordly. Oh.
Some of it, again, fell on a road, hard packed from many feet, the tread of horses' hooves and the footsteps of heroes. It had some soil there, and so the wheat grain sprouted and began to grow on the roadway, but then the constant coming and going of travelers destroyed it. The birds pecked and ate it, so that none of what fell on the roadway survived to be of use to the owner. Then some of it fell that day where there were many thorn thickets. It had soil there, and so it came up, sprouted, and took hold, but weeds grew up there in abundance and prevented its growth. The forest cover had overwhelmed it from the start, and it was not able to grow to be fruitful since the thorn bushes had crowded it out. The companions of Christ sat there. The word-wise warriors were silent. They were deep in wonderment about the images with which God's Son undertook to tell such a wise spell. Then one of the earls bowed to the gracious Lord and began with great reverence to ask him, "You have power, holy chieftain," he said, "in heaven and on earth, above and below. You are the all-ruler of human spirits, and we are your followers, devoted to you in our hearts. Good Lord, if it be your will, let us hear the meaning of your words here, so that we will be able to let it be known after you among all the Christian people. We know that true pictures emerge from your words, and we have a terrible need in this country to understand from you your words and your works, since it all comes from such wisdom." That's just a lovely piece of writing right there.
I know.
That's so nice. Song 30, the explanation of the story. Then the best of men replied to him with this answer. "I did not intend in any way," he said, "to keep my deeds concealed, neither the words nor the works. You will know it all, my followers, for the ruler of this world has granted to you that in your mind's feelings you are to know the secret mystery, the runes of heaven. Other people are to be taught the commands of God in images and pictures. I will certainly tell you here and now what I meant, so that you will be able to understand my teaching better throughout this territory. The seed about which I spoke to you is the word itself, the holy teaching of the Heaven King, as one should spread it over the middle realm all across this world. People are different in their attitude of mind. Some people have feelings so hard-hearted and mean-spirited that it can never happen that such a person would act according to your words or would want to begin to carry out my teachings. So, all my teaching is lost there. God's message and your human words are lost on the evil man, just as I was saying to you before. The weed on top of the stone died, for when it sprouted, it found no place to take root. It is all lost. the speech of noble men and the message of God, everything that has been taught in words to the evil man. What is worse, to the displeasure of God and to the delight of the evil ones, the man has chosen to journey among the enemy toward the embrace of the fire. From that moment onward, the thoughts of his breast will add heat to the flames. Never teach my doctrine any the less in your words. Because of this, if there are many earls like that one on this earth, there is also the other human being, the man who is young and intelligent, good-hearted, wise in his words, and who understands your spells. He thinks about them in his heart, and he listens there very intently, and then steps closer. In his heart, he accepts God's bidding. He learns it and does it. His faith being so good, he calculates how he could convert the other man, the wicked one, into feeling pure loyalty to the King of Heaven. God's command, the loving faith, then spreads out widely in this man's heart, just as the wheat does as it sprouts in the soil where it has good ground, and where fate favors it with good weather, rain, and sun, so that conditions are perfect. This is what God's teaching does day and night in the good person. As the devil walks far away from him, the evil little creatures, God's protective care comes powerfully nearer and nearer, night and day, until the teaching brings about two things in the man. The teaching that comes out of his mouth becomes a blessing to the sons of men, and he himself becomes God's. And so by his attitude of mind, he has exchanged this earthly moment, for a part of the kingdom of heaven, the greatest possession. He is traveling to the realm of God's power, free of bad deeds. Faithfulness is such a good thing for every man. No treasure hoard of gold can be compared to such faith. Keep on being kind and generous teachers of mankind. Warrior heroes are so different in their attitudes of mind. Some resist violently. They have ill will and a vacillating mind. They are full of fakeness and wicked deeds. Then one of them begins to think he is standing there among the people. As he is standing there among the people, listening with rapt attention to God's teaching, that he would willingly like to follow it from now on. God's teaching immediately begins to attach itself to his mind, until the moment when once again some useful wealth and someone else's property come into his hands. The evil little creatures lead him off as he gets caught up in his desire for possessions. His belief burns out. It did him little good to have ever had it in his heart if he was not willing to hold on to it. That corresponds to the grain that began to sprout alongside the road, growing in the soil. It was killed by people's coming and going, exactly what the serious sin in that man's mind does to God's teaching, if one does not watch out for it well. Otherwise, sin will throw the man down to the bottom of the infernal regions, to hot hell, where he will be of no further service to the King of Heaven, but the enemies will punish him painfully. Always keep on teaching with words in this land. I know the minds of the peoples, the different feelings and attitudes of mankind, the different ways.
Okay, there's two there. Words in this land is this repeated exhortation to continue teaching no matter what happens to some of the grains is the author's. He inserts it 3 times in the parable, each time putting it into the mouth of Christ. No doubt it reveals the difficulty of missionary labors in Saxony and shows as well that part of the intended audience of the Heliand was those monks who were spreading the word in the north. This strong exhortation seems to have something of the spirit of Ansgar, who was working during this period for the conversion of the northern Saxons and Scandinavians. And 119, it's ... because 1/2 of a line is missing here from the manuscript.
So, some people's whole mind and concern is more on how they can hold on to their hoard than how they can accomplish the will of the King of Heaven. Because of this, God's holy will cannot grow there, even though it may attach itself and send out roots. Wealth crowds it out. It is the same as the weeds and the thorn bushes that entangle the wheat and prevent it from growing. That is what wealth does to a human being. It puts his heart in chains so that the man cannot think and pay attention to the thing he needs most. How he can work it out during the time that he is in this world, that he will possess the kingdom of heaven for eternal days thereafter, thanks to his Lord, with wealth so endless that no man in this world could ever realize it. No thane here can think so broadly in his mind, nor can the heart of man contain or really know what good things the ruling God has gotten ready, everything that stands prepared for each human being who loves him here, for each person who takes such care of his soul that he will be able to sail to God's light. Ah,
Do you want to take a little break, because I'm
sure.
saving up stuff to say and I'm going to forget.
Yeah. Let's talk about it for a minute.
I'm going to forget. Well, just about that first footnote, of how he doesn't talk about the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the scribes. He just says the Jews.
Yes.
I did notice, where is that part? It's 112, 113. Where was that? Oh, 114.
114. Yep.
So that is, oh, where did that footnote go? Oh, here. Then in answer to that, people spoke to him, hostile-minded Jews. So he does have, like, he's not saying all Jews. He's saying hostile-minded Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I
Because
just
the
wanted to
disciples were Jews too, right? So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, there were a lot of Jews that were converting, or
yes.
I don't even think it was conversion. It was just they were following Christ, right? As Messiah.
Yes.
And so, it couldn't be all Jews, right? And I think that that's how he distinguishes them. He says the hostile-minded Jews.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, and he says a little later too. Let's see. Because he was saying how there were many of them who saw and then they started following him. It was like, let's see. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where it was. Because I remember thinking, oh, there he's kind of clarifying that that it wasn't like all Jews who were rejecting him. Oh yeah, a great number of the pagan men warriors were in amazement. They said that the ruler himself, Almighty God, had given Christ greater power, strength, and knowledge than any other of the sons of men. The Jewish people, however, did not want to recognize that he was God, nor to believe his teaching. They fought him in a dirty way. No, maybe not. That wasn't the place where I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because there was a.
I mean, he
He did say, nor, yeah, in Song 29, nor was the chieftain's son ever the laxer because of this. Rather, he said in words how the Jews could come to heaven's kingdom, taught across the countryside, and turned so many of these people to him with these words that a very great crowd was following him.
Right.
So he wasn't cursing them. He was trying. He was being patient and long suffering toward them.
Yeah. Plus, he was speaking to people that wouldn't have understood those factions within Judaism, right? So it had to simplify it. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out was when he talked about not touching. Where was that?
Oh yeah, it was right at the top of page 78.
Okay. Oh yeah, I do not even need to touch him. And it says here that he inserted this because of the probable importance of touching for Germanic magic. I didn't realize this. I mean, maybe, is this even in the scriptures that he says he doesn't have to touch him?
No.
No, it's not, right? Okay, so I have to. I've told this before. I'm probably going to bore those who have heard it, but when I was in India, I had a Hindu woman who was a neighbor, and she came with a sick child, and she asked me to pray for the child. And the house I was staying at had been occupied by YWAMers on kind of on a regular basis for a couple of years. And it belonged to an Indian family, but they were hosting YWAMers quite a bit. And so I said to her, I said I would pray for the child. And I asked her, this was so weird because normally I'm super empathetic and I'm just like, oh, give me the baby. But I didn't have permission to do that. It was weird. And I said to her, and I was alone there and I wasn't with YWAM. And I said, I have to pray about it. So come back in an hour, right? And so I prayed about it and I was like, whoa, what do I do, Lord? Because I didn't come from a charismatic background and I kind of knew what her expectations were. And I just didn't want to hocus pocus anything, So I prayed about it and I had what I thought was a word from the Lord. So she came back and sat down and I said to her, I'm going to pray for your son, but I'm not going to touch him. This was the specific instruction that I had. Because they came from a world of magic and touching.
Yeah, right.
And I said, and she was very concerned about that because I was working with a translator because YWAMers had always touched, right?
Yeah.
And I said to her, well, God wants you to know that he has the power to heal, even if I don't touch your son, because I don't have the power to heal your child. Only God does. And then I told her that, and this was the other thing I was supposed to tell her, that God wanted her to worship him and him alone because he loved her so much. He wanted her for himself. He was jealous of the other gods. And she said, I can't do that because if I do that, then my husband will lose his job or my child will die or my husband will die,
Yeah.
And I said, God understands that. And, but he wants you to know that. So, and now I'm going to pray for your child and your child will be healed. And you remember what God said to you, that he loves you so much. He wants you for himself. And she was disappointed. I could see it in her face. She had kind of she was a little disappointed. And I was just like shaking in my boots, okay? Because I'm like, what if nothing happens? What if her baby dies? Like all the faith that I had. What was I, 22? I was 22, Jeremy.
Man, wow.
So she left. I prayed. She left. And she came back the next day and she was just like on cloud 9. Her baby was healed. She brought him. And I mean, she brought him both times. And he was like extremely fevered, just snot. He did not look good, okay? Lip in her arms. And the next day he was perfectly fine. And she said, I had to show you. She couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Neither could I. Neither could I.
I
was so scared. I was so scared. And
wow.
and then you read this tonight, and I just was like, oh my God, I got to tell this story because
Yeah. No, it's very relevant. Yeah.
Well, it was exactly what he says here, In this passage, the Heliand shows Christ's superior magical powers to that of Germanic wizards. All he has to do is speak, right?
Yeah.
And that was what I was told had to happen, So it was,
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. A beautiful tie-in.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope she tried to stay faithful.
I never saw her again, but I know that she knows something that nobody else knows. She came alone. She knows. You know, remember the verse, and Mary pondered these things in her heart.
I was
That's what
thinking the exact
mother,
same thing. Yeah.
that is what mothers do, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And all they care about is their children.
Yes.
So God spoke to her a message of love. It was a love story.
Yes.
He wooed her there, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like that phrase. For each person who takes such care of his soul that he will be able to sail to God's light.
Mm.
Like, that's so nice. You know?
That really stuck out to me because I spent a large part of the morning this morning. I slept in my tent last night and I got up early and I sat by the lake and I read Saint Ephraim's hymns on paradise. And that's exactly what Saint Ephraim talks about. Right?
Yeah.
Taking care of your soul. Like the part that I read this morning, he talks about the body and the soul being entwined in each other, and that without the body, the soul can't perceive the world. Because he's talking about the resurrection, right? And how important it is for the body to be a part of that story.
Yes.
And so the body makes the soul because it informs the soul, right?
Yeah.
And it feels to me like this is what he's saying at the end here, who takes such good care, right? It's part of taking care of your body.
Yes.
You know, it's not just treating your body badly and then taking care of your soul. You know,
Right.
it's not separated for these people.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, they're intertwined. Well, this is a small tangent. We don't have to go down this road, but this is what always occurs to my mind when people talk about yoga and they're just like, oh, I just do it for the stretching. I just do it for the physical. And it's like, you can't separate them. Right. No matter how hard you try, no matter what you kind of mental games you play, your movements have meaning, even if you don't think about it, or even if you aren't aware of it, right? Like if you go, it reminds me of like going into a bad neighborhood in a different country, and you don't know what you're supposed to do there and what you're not supposed to do there, and you could very easily be doing stuff that is going to invite a lot of trouble unknowingly, right? Unintentionally. It doesn't matter. The people who are in that neighborhood are watching you, and you did something offensive, you're going to have a problem. And it's just like that with yoga. It really doesn't matter what your intentions are. If you're behaving those ways, if you're acting it out, you're opening a door, and it's a very dangerous game to play, in my opinion. So anyway, there's my unasked for rant
on yoga.
On yoga. Yeah. I'm also going to turn off Steam. There we go. Okay. Yeah, because it's dangerous, and it's to me it's a side effect of modernism, where you think you can separate them. You know, you think it's a result of Descartes. You know, oh, there's the physical and the spiritual, and I can do physical things without it having any spiritual effect, and I can do these physical things and it has no spiritual effect, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
They're intertwined. And yes, intentionality plays a role. I'm not saying that. I need to correct that. Intentionality does play a role, but it's not completely divorced. You can your intentionality still, you know, if you don't intend to offend somebody in another country, you can still offend people. If you don't intend to invite demons into your life, you can still invite them unwittingly.
Well, you should have heard the story I read the other night. I read it before I went to bed, and I was so scared after.
Oh, yikes.
Oh, it was in Pavel Florensky's book, and he was talking about this monk who sat down to write out a story of a woman who was I think she was a saint, and she had been demon possessed. And the monk, I remember his name was Motolivov, I think Motolivov. He was Russian. He was traveling, actually. I think he was in a train station or something, and he had to spend the night there. So he had this little candle, and he got his papers out, and he was supposed to be like editing this story, and he read the line that she was demon possessed, and he's like, she couldn't have been demon possessed. She was an Orthodox Christian. She was baptized. It's not possible. And the way the story goes, am I okay with my internet? Because I'm down to 1 bar for some reason.
Yeah, you look smooth to me.
Good. Suddenly, this dark cloud of nothing, like, the dense, dark, black cloud of whatever came around him. He could feel it pushing in on him, and it was headed right for his mouth, and he was pursing his lips and trying not to let it come in, and it went in to him. And for the first trial was 3 days, the second trial was 2 days, and the last trial was 1 day. And he felt all the descriptions of Gehenna. He felt the fire for the first 3 days, and his body was covered in ash. And apparently he put his soot-covered hand as a sign on a testimony of written up by one of the abbot of his monastery, wrote this down and they witnessed it. They saw it happening, and they gave him communion and prayed for him, and he was freed from that after 3 days. The second 2 days was, what's the other description of Gehenna? There was the fires, and
I can't remember. Gnashing of teeth and like
no. I don't remember exactly, but the third day, or the third torment, was the worms. He and the abbot could see them. Nobody else could see them.
Wow.
And it would come out of his nose and back into his mouth and into his stomach. Anyways, okay. And then he had to carry that. I mean, he didn't go through those 3 torments anymore, but he carried this demonic possession, for 30 years, which was the same length of time that this woman was demonically possessed. And at the end of the 30 years, it left him.
Wow. It reminds me of the thorn in the flesh that St. Paul talked about. Yeah. Yeah, no, that reminded me of the thorn in the flesh that St. Paul talked about, right? Like, we don't know exactly the nature of that torment, but it very well could have been that.
No, but I mean, he really ate his words. Like, he seriously ate his words.
Oh, your audio cut out. I didn't hear you there.
I said he seriously.
I don't have any audio. I can't hear you.
No audio? Maybe I'll go out and come back in.
I don't know what happened. Is it me?
Can you guys hear me? Because this happened before, and it was on Jeremy's end. Lance, can you hear me if you're listening?
Yeah, we lost your audio.
Really? Okay. I'm going to go out.
Yeah, I can only hear. Can't hear Sherry. I don't know if she can hear me.
I hear you.
She can hear me. Yeah, we can't hear you. Don't know what happened.
Weird.
Want me to kick you out and you come back?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Off you go. Off with you. Let's see.
Hello.
Back.
Hello.
Hey, there we go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, Lance, you could hear me.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, see? Don says it's just Jeremy. I can hear Sherry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now you're back.
I knew it was Jeremy.
I do have problems. Most problems are me. That's true.
No.
Just ask my family. Like, all the family problems are Jeremy.
I was like, and I was staying out in the tent and I was reading this and I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed now. I couldn't finish
Yeah.
the chapter. I couldn't finish
Yeah.
that chapter. I was like, I got to read this in the morning when the light is shining, not when it's getting dark.
I've read church fathers who say that people who are possessed basically have already been in hell, and they won't have to be there anymore.
Oh, that's nice to
Yeah.
hear.
So
Yeah. Well,
it's pretty
anyway,
horrible.
yeah, it was a
So
little on the terrifying side.
yeah, well, I pray that we don't have to have those trials.
Do we want to?
I'll stick with the trials I already have.
Yeah. Do you want to drop a link?
Sure.
Okay, I got it. I have to
Okay.
be quick on the draw, guys, because Jeremy's got controls too. So I did read that in the tent in that dark. And I'm just like, should I keep going? I'm like, there's got to be a happy ending here. And I'm just like, oh my God, 30 years? What?
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's rough.
yeah, it was pretty interesting. What was he saying there in that he was talking about? Oh, he's talking a lot about contradiction and antinomies and how truth is found within the paradox, right? So whatever
Yeah.
is true, the opposite is also true.
Yes.
Okay, so he
Right.
was actually talking about universal salvation. He said universal salvation is true, but it is also false.
Yes.
And oh, cool, Lance. And so, yeah, man, he's such a trip. I don't even know. Like, I am loving this. Like, it's. I don't know if you do. I have my see my avatar.
Yes.
What is that avatar? Do you know what that is?
Well, that looks like an MC Escher drawing, and it looks like angels and devils.
Angels and demons, and it all depends on how you look at stuff.
Yeah.
What you see first, right?
Yeah.
And that is also something I wanted to read while we're at it.
Okay. That sounds great.
And it's from the Heliand. Because like I said, I've been reading the Sermon on the Mount like several times.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Well, and some of the like that, just real quick before you start, just in this the explanation of the sower was so much more. There was a lot more meat to it in the Heliand than there is in the scriptures. You know, it's like the scriptures are kind of brief, and he really extrapolated that really beautifully. Like I'm going to read that several times for sure.
Oh yeah, like I got a whole new understanding, but I don't even know if that's a sufficient word to say of what the teaching is. But because he uses things like, okay, I have to collect my thoughts because I'm very excited about this, and when I get excited, I just lose all my thoughts. Well, I was talking to somebody about who was struggling with this idea of judging. Her daughter was telling her, "Well, you can't judge," and
Yeah.
I said, you know what? That's a little bit. The Heliand just helped me to understand. That's a little bit of a misguided interpretation of the Sermon on the Mount, because he says, you should never pronounce even the slightest detrimental, unjust judgment on any man, since that judgment comes back on the same man who spoke unjustly of another, right?
Yeah.
This, I think, is like that phrase that he just used with the hostile Jews, right? So it's a certain kind of person. It's not all people, right? It's somebody who goes around just throwing out judgments, kind of thing.
Yes.
And then
just throwing out curses.
Right. And then he says that right after that, he talks about the log in your eye, right? And the speck in your brother's eye. And so he says, and this is the way the Heliand expands on these things. He says, You should have a talk. Why should you have a talk with a man, your brother, to tell him that under his eyelash you have seen a tiny fleck of straw in his eye, when you are not willing to be aware of the huge beam, the hard heavy tree that you your eyes? Fell that tree in your own consciousness. Think how you will get rid of it first. Then the light will come shining through to you. Your eyes will be opened. After that, you will then be able to improve and heal the sight of your friend's eyes. So it's not over. You don't just think about the log in your eye and then walk away and leave your friend to flail around in the dirt, right?
Right.
You look in. You need that kind of interiority in order to be able to help the other person heal, right? That's what it's
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
And then after that, and I'll try to keep this really brief, he goes into pearls before swine, right?
Yeah.
Guard against the trickery of these people. They come to you and find the finest of jewels, but they have deception in mind. And here's something that the sower, the parable of the sower, touches on, where he says, they speak wise words, but their actions are worth nothing. Worthless are the thoughts of those people. For you know that wine grapes do not grow on a sticker bush, and a hero cannot pick figs from a thorn tree. Right?
Yep.
And then he says, in their deepest thoughts and inmost feelings, most of humanity believes that every person reveals himself, telling you with his mouth what kind of feelings and thoughts are in his heart. He cannot disguise it, for an evil man, from an evil man will come malicious advice, bitterly negative speech, just what he keeps within his chest, his treasure, right? Chained
Yeah.
around his heart. His thoughts and his will always make themselves known in his words, and then his actions come traveling along behind. That's also in the parable of the sower, right? He talks about
Yep.
that.
Yep.
From the good man comes an intelligent, wisely thought out thing, right? Then he says, then he talks about being a lamb, amongst wolves. And so here's the thing. Yeah, I send you off into this country like a lamb among wolves. And now you're going on a journey, on a mission. You're going to have a lot of hardships. You're going to stand in shackles, before kings. There's no need for you to worry. And one of the things he says here is, you will be traveling in the midst of your enemy, among many people, among unlike human beings. Keep your feelings opposed to them. Stay intelligently face to face with them. You should take care that human beings are not able to twist the thoughts of your heart or your will. Be as truly against their deceptive deeds, as one would be against enemies. So he starts this out with, don't judge, get rid of the log in your own eye, but then you can go to your friend and help them, right? And then he goes on to say, judge, discern.
Right. Yes.
Over and like there's 2 little paragraphs on don't judge, and the rest of it is discern, discern, discern.
Right.
Keep intelligently face to face with them. Don't stop opposing them, right?
Right.
Don't be deceived.
Right. Well, this goes into like so many people. Jonathan Pajot mentioned this in a recent video where he just said when he was younger, he thought that being Christian just meant being nice
Yeah,
to
I
everyone.
know.
And that's still so common. So many people think that. He said, but then I read the Gospels. And he was like, of course there are times where Christ is very loving and very kind, but there are other times where he's very harsh and very demanding and very, very critical of people. And
telling someone to keep their enemies, and he describes it as, he says, just like the yellow snake, stay intelligently face to face, like a
yes,
snake. like a snake. Right?
Right.
That's a pretty hard stare, you know. It's like I'm looking at
Yeah.
you.
Like Jungle Book. Trust in me. No, anyway.
Yeah, for some people that's terribly uncomfortable.
Yeah, Lance had a little comment. I wanted to jump in on the first episode, but my wife needs some help.
That's
So
okay.
happy you guys are doing this. We're glad you're here, Lance. Thank you for the
Yeah.
support. I also saw you shared the link to the stream on Twitter, and I appreciate that.
Oh, wow. Thank you,
Yeah.
man.
So I'm streaming this over on Twitter and on YouTube. So it's just under my name, Jeremy Firth, on Twitter. I haven't set up a Restoring Meaning account on Twitter yet. I don't know if I will, but anyway. Yeah, I'll probably just leave it the way it is. I also set up a Ko-fi today.
Oh.
I know. Now I have to. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to change the subject.
It's okay.
Lance kind of sidetracked.
You go for it. I'm looking for something else that I wanted to mention here.
Excellent. I will share this really quick. Copy. Link. There we go. And there's our Ko-fi. So we are. I set up a little campaign of just raising the money for our monthly fee for StreamYard. So that'll be awesome. But if not, that's okay too. We're just glad you're here. This is no obligation. We just love that you guys all join us for our meanderings and for sharing the Heliand and Lives of the Saints. This project it's become a very significant part of my spiritual life.
Me
honestly. It's kept me grounded. I've had some difficult trials for the last, well, it just always takes on different forms, but having this podcast and being able to come and share Lives of the Saints and the Heliand with all of you has really helped me as well, because now I dive into Lives of the Saints more deeply. I've been studying them and you begin to see the patterns. You begin to discern the patterns in their lives, and then pray for the strength to be able to live those same patterns in your own life. And I'm grateful for this opportunity. So now we're in new digs, but we've got the same intent, and that's just to share what God has shared with us.
Honestly, let me say this. It was totally selfish on my part when God started, because I was like, I don't have church. And how am I going to learn anything if I don't actively try to learn something?
Yeah.
And I don't think, you can learn things on your own, but it's so much better if you can be in conversation with other people.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
I didn't know how to do it with, but God picked you out, Jeremy. So,
well, glory to God. I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can. It's like I said, it's a real joy.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, that usually just means fumbling around on scanning the wrong page.
Yeah. Well,
it's all good.
That makes this a lot of fun anyway. So it's fine.
Good.
I think that what I want to say next kind of coincides with what you were talking about.
Okay.
Because when I read this for probably the fourth time, I never noticed it before. He says, so he talks about the yellow snake and the ICU and all that kind of thing, right? And then he says, then you should, this is still from the Sermon on the Mount. Sorry, I'm going backwards.
No, it's great. Love it.
Then you should also be like a dove in your actions. Have a simple, straightforward mind toward every person. Be generous, spirited, so that no one comes to be deceived because of your behavior, tricked because of your sins. You know how it says, be wise as serpent and harmless as doves? Well, this is how he elaborates on it, Jeremy. He says, be like the yellow snake, stay intelligently face to face with these unlike human beings, right? The wolves. You're being sent out like a lamb among wolves. Keep your eye on them, right?
Right.
Be
Yeah.
truly against them, right? So you're never gonna, and then he says, and be like a dove. Well, what does that mean? I always wondered. Have a simple, straightforward mind toward every person. Be generous spirited so that no one comes to be deceived because of your behavior and tricked because of your sin.
Mm,
Wow.
right. Yeah. Don't scandalize people.
Yeah.
Well, and when you were talking about keeping your eyes on the serpent, I just was like, I was on a hike one time with my dad, and my dad was in front of me. We were fishing, and we were just going back to the truck, but it was about half a mile. And, it was in the desert, and we were walking along, and all of a sudden I heard, and I was like, Dad, stop. Because my dad's hearing wasn't very good.
Oh.
He only had one ear that worked kind of. And he just froze, and I froze, and I was like, there's a snake. And I pointed at the snake, and he's, and when you see, it was a rattlesnake, and it was long. It was about 3.5 feet long. It was a big rattlesnake. And it's just like you said, when you see a snake, you're riveted on that. Like that's all of your attention is on that snake, and what is it going to do? And so my dad slowly backed away from it and went and got 2 sticks, and he pinned down the head of the snake with one stick, and then kept repeatedly hitting it on the head with the other stick, and killed it. And we took it home that night and skinned it, and now it's on his cowboy hat, which I inherited. Now, unfortunately, it's not out here in the trailer. I keep it in the house, but yeah, I still got his cowboy hat. We skinned that snake, and that's a memory of our fishing trip together. But it just reminds me of what you're talking about, as far as like, you're not judging it. You're watching it.
Yeah.
To know what it's going to do, to try to see its moves, right? Like, is it going to turn on me? Is it going away from me? Has it noticed me?
This is actually the way that he's telling it in the Heliand, and how Christ says it's wise as serpents. So this is actually from the snake's point of view.
There's that too, right?
The snake is transfixed on its prey.
Yes.
Whatever it perceives to be enemy. And it just keeps its eye on it, right? Yeah. Have you ever been to India or been anywhere where they charm cobra?
No.
Because that's really what they're playing with, where they're playing with that reflex in the snake to just stay eyes on.
Yes. Yeah. No, I haven't witnessed that. I mean, I've seen videos and documentaries and stuff, but I haven't seen.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Wow.
In real life.
I saw it on Johnny Quest. There's another obscure reference. If you know, you know.
I don't know that one, Johnny.
Okay, Lance, I'll bring the hat out next episode. I will. I'll bring out my dad's hat.
Yeah.
My mom gave it to him. Oh man, 40 years ago. He wore it his whole life, and it's got a snakeskin on it, and it's still got the rattle. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, well, what was cool too. So, when you kill a snake, like when you kill any animal, it has like the death throes, like it's got the nerves, that are, it's usually 30 seconds at the most, depending on how you kill it.
Yeah.
Well, this snake just
kept going.
So it took us like 45 minutes to get back to the hotel. We were working out of town. We drive back to the hotel, went and got my uncle. Hey, guess what? We killed a snake. Come check it out. He comes out, and it was in a box on the back of the truck. I opened the box, and it's still just.
Wow.
So then we skinned it. And even after I skinned it, like, so we had to, we gutted it, pulled the guts out and then skinned it, and it's still, I mean, it was like 2 hours, 3 hours of that snake. Just something's different about that nervous system. I've never seen any other animal do that before.
I unfortunately.
You have? Oh, okay. Well, I thought my snake story was unique.
Well, no, I haven't seen a snake do it, but I have, it depends on how high stress the animal is in when it's happening, when their death happens.
I see.
The nervous system is like, it's electrical, right? So it's like it fires.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that happened. I don't even know if I should tell the story because I don't know how some people are going to feel about it. I mean, we butchered our goats every year, right? And the first year that we did it, my husband wasn't entirely sure how to go about it. And for some reason, this goat was highly sensitive to the situation and, I guess was feeling a lot of fear at the time. It was quick and painless.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. Well, let me finish my story. So that goat got cut up and put in packages, and the meat, there was like a heap of packages, and it was twitching. The whole was twitching.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just
the snake was like that.
My son was devastated. He was like 10 years old. He's like, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's an abattoir near us that was started by some people who are just into, I wouldn't say new age, it's more like anthroposophical ways of doing things, Rudolf Steiner ish. Because like you said about the yoga thing, what a lot of people do is shop around and take a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Oh yeah. Syncretism is the religion of our time.
Yeah. So anyway, they got a shaman to find the spot where they needed, like they had to find the kill floor before they even built the abattoir. Okay. It had to be sacred. So they had a shaman come and decide where the kill floor would be. And then that kill floor was built in such a way that there was like this beautiful mosaic right there at the spot for each animal. And they were butchering cows, mostly cows and pigs, I think. And then the animal could see off into the distance as it was being slaughtered. And but the reason for it all was because it actually affects the meat, the tenderness, toughness, flavor of the meat if the animal is in stress when it gets slaughtered.
Right.
And so this is to alleviate that so that the quality of the meat is superior.
See, now what's interesting about that is I read a story about a woman who lived in South America for a while, and she said their practice was, so there were the little wild deer that lived in the jungle, and she said they would use a snare trap to catch the deer, and then they would bring the deer back to the village, but they would leave it tied up for like a day before they killed it, because they said that it tenderized the meat and they actually preferred it
stressed out.
Stressed out. Yeah, they said it
maybe with wild meat it's different, but this is
maybe it's depending on the animal, right? So.
This is also the purpose of kosher killing. It's supposed to be stress-free, although there's dispute about it, and halal as well. Right. Those are both stress. The purpose of halal and kosher slaughterhouses is, I mean, it's religious in the sense that it's prescribed by their scriptures, but it's right. But in essence, it's supposed to be a stress-free slaughterhouse. Doesn't always work out that way, but yeah. Yeah. Temple Grandin is super interesting about this. I mean, she designed
right. Yes.
For the purpose of reducing the stress of the animal, actually. But she's not an anthroposoph or anything. She's an autist. She's an amazing autist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with your local theosophist.
No.
Someone said the other day, they were like, wow, ever since I've learned about autism and especially how it manifests in women, Ayn Rand makes so much more sense.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh
my gosh, yeah.
I was like, wow, yep, there you go.
And probably a few others, like, but yeah. Okay, so there's one more little thing I want to squeeze out of this Sermon on the Mount.
Great. Oh, I love it.
So when
wait. Sorry, before you do, Lance was kind enough. He was our first donator, and he bought StreamYard for us for this month. So on our very first stream on the 8th day of the month, it's already taken care of. And the other, while I'm on that though, the other little thing that I wanted to mention is that my daughter made this screen for me literally 4 years ago to the day.
And Jeremy did not know what to do with it.
I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't sure what to do with my channel, and here we are. So I thought that was really, really great.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, Dawn. Yeah. She's just so great.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Back to the dove thing. One of the things that stood out to me in that, when he says you should be like a dove in your actions, he says, have a simple, straightforward mind toward every earl, but its person. Be generous, spirited. This is a dove. This is his description of a dove, generous, spirited. So that nobody can accuse you of being deceptive, right? And then after the Sermon on the Mount is the marriage feast at Cana. And I have an ant crawling across my desk. Hang on. I don't like having ants in a log house. Just, saying.
See, and I thought you meant you had your like your dad's sister was there.
No, literally an ant was just crawling across my keyboard. I'm like, okay, gotta get it.
Yeah, because then I realized you're Canadian. I'm like, no, she wouldn't say ant like that. She would say aunt.
No, I would say ant.
Do you say ant?
Yes.
Oh, look, there we go. Nice. There's more crossover than I thought.
Well, I'm Western Canada.
True, that's right. Yes.
So
yeah, you wised up.
Anyways, did you get my
yes
my relationship there? A generous spirit, and the marriage feast at Cana. Because in that story, when he turns the water into wine, the earl, right, the guy that's hosting, he says,
oh, I get it now. Now I get it. Now that you pointed out.
Right.
I'm a little slow. I'm a slow boy over here.
As soon as he drank the wine, the man could not contain himself from speaking in front of the crowd to the bridegroom. He said that it was always the best apple wine that every earl serves first at his wedding. Men's minds wake up with the wine, so that they start feeling ever more merry. Drunk, they rejoice. Then, after that happens, one can serve the cheaper apple wine. That's the custom. Now, you as host have made your arrangements for the crowd in a most amazing way. You ordered your servants to bring the worst of all your wine to these folks and serve it up first at your wedding. Now your guests are full. The whole wedding party is very drunk. They're all intoxicated. And now you've ordered the loveliest of all apple wines brought. This is what you should have given to the guests earlier today. At that time, every one of us would have received it with gratitude.
That just occurred to me that also, yes, that also applies to the part we read today, where let me look at it really quick.
Yeah.
Where Oh, there it is. Now it's working. I'm sorry. I'm looking for it. It was the part about the so right at the end. So then the earth will fall apart. That will be the hugest of all harvests. And the bright shining chieftain above will come with his angel forces, and all the people who ever saw this light will come together, and they will at that time receive their reward, a bad one or a good one. God's angels, the holy guards of heaven, will then go and separate out the clean men and gather them together and put them into the infinitely beautiful high light of heaven. And the others they will put down in the bottom of hell's realm, throwing the evildoers to the surging fire. Bound up, they will there suffer the pain which the bitter flames inflict. The others, the riches of the heavenly kingdom, where they will shine like bright suns. This is the reward men receive for their good deeds. It's like in this life we drink the bitter wine.
Oh, where is this? I'm trying to find it.
So this is on page 85.
Oh, 85.
Page 85, yeah.
Oh, then the earth will fall apart. Yeah.
So we're drinking the wine now. We're eating and drinking the body of Christ, right? In the Eucharist. We are participating. We're at the feast, but we're at the beginning where he's serving the worst of the wine. And then there's going to come a time where we're already drunk, right? We transfer into the next life, and we're already drunk with joy, and then he's going to bring out the good wine.
It just gets better.
Right. And you're like, what? There they will, the others, the riches of the heavenly kingdom, where they will shine like bright suns. This is the reward.
Yes.
And where was it?
That was we didn't read that one yet.
Oh, did we not read that? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. No,
I skipped ahead.
That's where I stopped you, because I was like,
oh, okay. Well, it is related though to it's right at the end of song 30. No thing here can think so broadly in his mind, nor can the heart of man contain or really know what good things the ruling God has gotten ready. Everything that stands prepared for each human being who loves him here, for each person who takes such care of his soul that he will be able to sail to God's light. Right? Yeah. Like that's the second half of the wedding feast, right? Where the good wine comes out.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting, because I just kept seeing corollaries to the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm like, oh, this is, for some reason, I never saw it in the scripture, but I'm seeing it in the Heliand, because the author of the Heliand is highlighting it.
Yes, he's revealing that pattern more clearly, for sure.
And so you're just like, oh, wow, like this is always being talked about. Right? It's just a through line in it. Also in the parable of the sower, when he talks about fruit and everything in the Heliand, he's like, you're not going to get, figs from a thorn bush, right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, what really struck me too, because this is a bit of a public confession here, but this part, let me share it. I'll pull it up. This one. Okay, so over here, warrior heroes are so different in their attitudes of mind. Some resist violently. They will have ill will and a vacillating mind. They are full of fakeness and wicked deeds. Then one of them begins to think, as he is standing there among the people, listening with rapt attention to God's teaching in divine liturgy, let's say, that he would willingly like to follow it from now on, right? Like being caught up in that, oh, this is such a beautiful homily, or, oh, divine liturgy is so beautiful right now. I want to follow it from now on. God's teaching immediately begins to attach itself to his mind, until The
Yeah.
moment when once again some useful wealth and someone else's property come into his hands.
Yeah.
The evil little creatures lead him off as he gets caught up in his desire for possessions. His belief burns out. It did him little good to have ever heard it, to have ever had it in his heart, if he was not willing to hold on to it. That I definitely felt called to repentance on that by that paragraph.
Well,
You
then
know,
it says down below that
yeah,
corresponds to the grain that began to sprout along the road, growing in the soil. It was killed by people's comings and goings, which is kind of the vacillating, right?
yes, yes,
Exactly what this serious sin in that man's mind does to God's teaching, if one does not watch out for it well. Otherwise, sin will throw the man down to the bottom of the infernal regions.
yeah. So there's a word that was um that was used back in the day, and you see it in like monastic writings. Um, you see it it's in the Ladder of Divine Ascent. Acedia is the word. Okay, so let me share this.
I was thinking he must have had the image of the ladder of divine ascent in his mind, that icon when he was talking about those evil little creatures.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. So acedia, apathy and inactivity in the practice of virtue, personified as one of the deadly sins. So, a state of listlessness or torpor, of not caring or not being concerned with one's position or condition in the world. Listlessness. Let's look that up real quick. This is how I've learned everything I know in my life, which isn't much, but this is what I do. Oh, is it not there? Okay, hold on. Listless. Give me that one. Thank you. So listless, having no desire or inclination, indifferent, heedless or spiritless, a
Yeah.
listless concern, heedless, careless, indifferent, vacant, uninterested, languid, spiritless, supine, and indolent. So they called this the spirit of the noonday, is what it's called in the
Oh yeah, when it's really
in the
hot.
ladder of divine ascent. And it's where you're in your room and you're praying. You know, you've had lunch and you're in your room and you're praying, and you hear some sound and you're like, oh, I should go visit this person. And then you go there and you're like, oh, this is boring, I need to go back and pray. And you go back and you're trying to pray and you go, oh, it's hot in here, I need to open the door. And it's like inability to focus. It's like spiritual ADD when you're not hyper fixated on something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I have ADD, so I understand. Yes, I know. That ADD is it's an inability to regulate your attention. That's what ADD is. It's not a lack of attention. Hey, Joy made it. Glory to God. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and
I haven't heard from you for a while. You owe me an update, Joy. Please catch
yeah.
me up. I haven't heard from you for a while. I've been praying for you. I hope everything's okay. So.
One of the things I wanted to say about that listlessness, when you were reading the dictionary, can you put it up again? The dictionary thing that you had?
Yeah. 1 second. It'll take a second because I closed it. Here we go. Webster's listless. And we share the screen. Oh, let's see. Stop. Share. Yeah. Okay.
So I like the words inclination, heedless, spiritless,
Yes.
because what those are saying to me is that there's a physical, when you see something that grabs your attention, what do? You lean in,
Ooh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what is that? That's heeding it, right? Like now you're in communion with that thing, right? Like, oh, and what are you in communion with? The spirit of that thing, right? Because
Yes.
why it grabs your attention, because it's more than an object. It's not objectified. That's why you are perplexed by it.
Uh-huh.
So when you were reading that, I had this visual of someone doing this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And like you said, focus, but focus can also be a problem. Like then you go around with blinders on, you don't see the things around you either, right?
Yeah, you can't hyper focus, and that is the other problem with ADD. Yes.
Right. So it's like wisdom, attend.
Mm,
That's what that is asking you to do. If it's like,
yes.
here comes something, you need to pay attention. It's not going to tell you what to pay attention to, because here's the deal. Like George MacDonald says, you're going to take the meaning that you need to take from it.
Yes.
So they can't
Yes.
say, this is the wisdom from this.
Right.
They're not going to draw your attention by giving you the proposition. All they do is say, wisdom, here comes, attend, lean in, right?
Yes. Right.
Incline yourself to this, right?
And you're participating in it rather than analyzing it or thinking about it. It's like you're anticipating. It's like looking in anticipation or in hopefulness, but not expectation.
Did you ever see Bug's Life? That's the best movie ever.
Yeah. Long time ago, but yes, I have.
Bug's Life is so, well, there's, the kids, my kids, who are all adults,
Yeah.
My middle child is 37, my oldest is 42. They would always, it was we had a lot of lines from favorite movies that just kept repeating themselves in the family,
Yeah.
And their one was, that big fat caterpillar who's trying to be a butterfly. He's got this little tiny wing.
Right. Yeah.
That guy, it's so beautiful. Don't look at the light. That's what happens when you see truth, capital T. You're captured by that.
Yeah.
It's and it manifests as beautiful, right? It's beautiful. And here's the deal: in the Bug's Life, it's light.
Yeah.
Don't look at the light. Well,
right.
Mr. Pavel Florensky says, beauty is light, light is beauty, and light and beauty are truth. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, just in that movie, let's stick with the movie. That little scene where he's just like, oh, and he goes into the zapper. It's not the it's a different guy, but that's what happens when you attend, right? Like, this is why attention is so important. If you're attending to wisdom, that's what happens. You get drawn into it, and it's that's where free will and agency and God's grace and all that stuff just goes,
Yeah. Well, I heard a priest say one time that attention is like, if you train your attention through prayer, you begin to learn what worship means.
Beautiful.
Because attention, you have to be able to hold your attention in order to begin to worship. You have to be able to focus and hold your attention where you want it to be, or on something, before you can begin to enter into worship. And he's like, obviously, you standing in divine liturgy, you're in worship. However, you can experience that more fully and more completely as you learn to pray.
I was sitting by the lake this morning, and there was one loon on the lake, and then I heard another one coming, and I watched it fly in, and it landed, and the other loon was so excited, and it landed right by it. And then they came together and they were just staring into each other's eyes, eh? And then they were doing this circular thing, and they would dive, and they would come up and dive and circle and circle and it went on for like at least 20 minutes of just this diving, and it was pure joy. And they'd both come up at once and they'd just stare at each other, and then the one would go around the other and then dive, and then the other would go around the other. It was just so beautiful. And then all of a sudden, they and loons are fun to watch take off, because their legs are so far back on their bodies. They're not great at, like, they can't do just a straight up like a duck out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
They got to run, right? So they're kind of like running on top of the water, and then all of a sudden they come up and they spiral up to their altitude, and they're doing this thing, and they're doing the same movement in the air that they were doing in the water. Okay, so they're circling around each other like this, and around each other, and then they go together, and then they go around together, and then they go backwards. And I'm just sitting there watching this, and then I went back to reading Saint Ephrem, and there was this one line about, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went, but it was like, in joy we swim in the waters and we fly through the air. And I just saw that.
Yeah.
I just saw it happening from the same animal. It was swimming in the water.
Wow.
And flying in the air, Jeremy.
It was teaching you. They were teaching you.
And that's attending.
Yes. Yeah.
When you see, like, I wasn't reading St. Ephrem, and then I saw I saw the loons, and then I went back to the thing, and it came up, and I'm like, oh, I just saw that.
Yeah. Wow.
The joy, right?
Yeah.
It was amazing. That's so good.
Yeah. I love your little, your retreat. I love your hermitage that you've built.
Oh, me too. I can't get enough of it.
It sounds like it's really fruitful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we're just, like, my husband came back with me on Sunday, and then I had to go pee, and I just, find a spot behind a tree kind of thing. And I'm like, because the snake goes, whoosh, and then I called my husband. He came over, and then he goes, oh, there's another one. And I went, there's another one. And there's another one. And there was like 6 snakes in this whole area together.
What?
Yeah. And we don't have poisonous snakes, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do in some areas, but not where we are. And I'm just like, why? I have lived here 25 years, and seldom have I run into 6 snakes by the lake. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just getting blessed, man. I'm just getting so blessed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. In those moments when I'm caught in the fury of the light, it almost burns me, and I'm enraptured. Yeah. That's good. It's hard. I mean, I get totally distracted. Sometimes I'm like, did I already pray that part?
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah.
Let's be honest.
It is difficult, and that's the good thing is that it is difficult, and that we are struggling, and it's to reveal your weakness to you, so you don't get prideful.
Well, there's a thing in Heliand that I read recently.
In the Sermon on the Mount?
In the Sermon on the Mount.
Right.
I've read it so many times. I don't know where it is, but he talks about not praying with many words. Why pray with many words when God knows what you need?
Yes.
And I was just like, oh, thank you, Lord, because I'm not a woman of, I talk a lot, but I don't pray a lot. Like, I don't pray with many words.
Yeah.
Because I feel like really, what do I know? Like, that's always the question I'm having.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I know what God wants for these people, or whatever, or me even?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a trust in God's providence. And as far as my priest says, it's good to read scripture before you pray, and then you do your prayer rule to get you. So scripture prepares you for prayer, and then you do your prayer rule, which prepares you for the Jesus prayer. And he's like, and Jesus prayer is when you're praying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Vespers it's like fasting is to prepare you for Vespers, and Vespers is to prepare you for Orthros, and Orthros is to prepare you for liturgy, and liturgy is to prepare you for the Eucharist, right? It's like it's going deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and each step is important, right? Each step is part of the process, but it's all to build you. It's kind of like lifting weights. It's like when you lift weights, you do 3 sets of 5. It's only the 15th lift that does the work, right? It's like all the other lifting you did that day is to wear your body out so that the 15th one was the one that stresses you and that your body actually adapts to. And it's the same. It's like you push yourself through the prayer book, your prayer rule, in order to get to the Jesus prayer. And even then, the Jesus prayer, it's like, the first 20 or 30 or the first 100 or 200, you're focused, you're paying attention. But then, the wandering starts. And that's where the true prayer, that's where you're learning to pray, is right on that edge of difficult, right?
Well,
on that floating away and recognizing, going, oh, whoops, where was I?
Oh yeah, there you go, Lance. Jesus prayer has changed my life. Yeah. Well, here's the thing about the Jesus prayer that I think we should all remember when we're saying it. It's a breath in and a breath out.
Yeah.
It's literally breathing.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah. We do that without thinking.
Right. And I'm not one to quote Martin Luther, but this one has always stuck with me. He said,
should I plug my ear?
Praying is to being Christian as breathing is to being human. Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
Prayer is to being a Christian as breathing is to being a human.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I didn't find the thing I was looking for, but I found another thing that I was talking about earlier.
Great.
Remember I was talking about the spirit of generosity? And then the wedding at Cana?
Yes.
It was also this part here. Whoever does receive you with a devout mind because of their spirit of generosity, such a person has carried out my will and received God, your Father, the chieftain of mankind, the powerful counselor who is aware of every act of goodness. So what is it to do God's will? To have a spirit of generosity, right? Receives you with a devout mind because of a spirit of generosity. That's kenosis, don't you think, Jeremy? Like a pouring.
Yeah. Well, and hospitality.
Yeah, I was thinking of hospitality, which was what the wedding feast at Cana was about. It was about hospitality, and of course, it was initiated by Theotokos. There's a lot going on there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and so hospitality is interesting because it's both being a good host and being a good guest, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm blessed with a wife who grew up with some old world culture. And so, and I think this is, it was also very prevalent in my rural upbringing where, you go to someone's house, you bring a gift, and then while you're there, you're helping with the dishes, you're putting stuff away, you're picking up the clothes, you're taking out the trash, the small things you can do to ease the burden on the host, right? Where, because they're already, they've gone and gotten extra food and they had to do extra cooking and they did some extra cleaning and then they had to get the guest room ready and they did so then, at the end of the weekend, you're stripping the bed and, and putting the things away and, like hospitality is both, and we sometimes focus on the host only, but being a good guest and also just being able to receive the gift is also part of the generous spirit.
Yeah.
Right. It is also the self-emptying.
Yeah.
Being able to accept someone else caring for you is part of the burden, you know.
Well,
I mean,
that's what he says.
it
Is
can
if
be
you
difficult.
have, because of the spirit of generosity, if you have a devout mind, think about this. This is what the Heliand says. Okay. If you have a devout mind, it is because of the spirit of generosity.
Yeah.
And if that is what you're doing, because your activity will follow along behind you, like you said earlier, right? Whatever's in your heart will follow along as action later, then you're doing the will of God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a radical openness, right?
Yes.
And we see that in the lives of the saints, right? When
Yeah.
was it Longinus? I remember that one for some reason. See, now these things they percolated down so far, and I can remember them now. Where he actually hosts the men who have to kill him.
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't say that they shouldn't kill him. They don't
No.
want to, but he
Right.
says no, they have to. And
Right.
and
And he knew who they were when they walked up.
And that is that spirit of generosity, Jeremy. That is a radical openness. And my favorite guy, I don't have his book here right now, but no, I just forgot his name. The Headless Way, Douglas Harding. He calls it being busted wide open.
Mm.
That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
That's a true human being. It's being busted wide open.
That's right.
That's what we're called to. We're not called to wonder if God wants us to wear the red shirt or the green shirt.
Right.
Right? We're not looking for that will of God. I know, right, Dawn? It made me mad too. But this is the beauty of these stories of the lives of the saints. They just kind of slowly go. And then they pop up over here. It's kind of like when I watch the loons. The loons, they slip, They just go, gone. There's hardly a rip. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, I have to take the binoculars down because they're not going to pop up in my field of vision. They go so far and fast. They pop up all of a sudden, over here, way on the other side or something. That's how this is working for me.
Yeah.
And like in my slow goodbye thing, when I read my essay, I said beforehand that when I put Saint Seraphim in the woods, I knew that something was going to change in me, and I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
So it took me so long to do it because I really didn't. I'm just like, no, I like it the way things are.
Mm. Right.
But man, things are so much better, and it's because of these saints in my life, Jeremy. It's just I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. They start working on you. Well, they're praying for you, and especially, I keep hearing, man, this is a message I'm sharing it with all of you because it keeps getting repeated to me over and over again. The saints, especially the modern saints, want to help you. They're standing ready.
Mm-hmm.
And they will just start asking for help, and they will help you. I think I told the story about my yard.
Yes, I love that.
Right. In case for the ones who weren't here, just really quick, my daughter's graduation was coming up. They were putting in water meters, and so my irrigation water wasn't working for my lawn. My lawn was starting to get brown, and all of a sudden, and I heard a story of a saint, and I was given that advice, that counsel to just ask the saints for help, even with just the silly little practical things. It's not, you don't need to wait for some grand, like, oh, I need all this big, or I get this horrible tragedy, or I've got this horrible, terrible thing that's about to happen, or this big, it doesn't have to be big. It was, I mean, it's not a big deal. And it was prideful probably on my part, but I wanted beauty. I wanted it to be a beautiful event, and I didn't want it to be distracting. I didn't want the yard to be distracting. So I prayed to St. George. I say, St. George, you are the green man, you are the saint, and I'm praying for you to please beautify my yard so that we can have a beautiful celebration with my daughter and with my family. And that night, well, no, so that day it was like 98 degrees in May, which doesn't happen here. And all of a sudden the next day it was 72 degrees, and the next night it rained, and the next day, and then it rained for 3 days straight. And then 2 days before the graduation, it got warm again, 80 degrees, and my yard was beautiful.
Yeah.
Glory to God.
Mm-hmm.
Good night, Lance. Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
But so, yeah, pray to the saints, even for the little things, especially the modern saints. Find a modern saint who you love and whose story just stands out to you, and ask them for help. Joy had us currently attending to From Ferocity to Heaven of St. Paisios. He said something like, we can marvel at their feats, but to truly honor the saints is to copy them as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Well, reading Pavel, I know he's not a saint, but in my mind he is. The man, I don't know if I told you this, but Eugene and I talked about it on Fairy Stories, because he just happened to mention, I didn't say anything about Florensky. He said he had read some of Florensky, and he asked me if I knew who he was, and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm deep in it. He said, man, that guy was so amazing. He was in gulags for 10 years. After he designed the electrical grid for Russia, they threw him in a gulag because he was a priest and he wouldn't stop, ministering to people. And everywhere he went, Eugene said, he brought life. So they kept moving him from gulag to gulag to gulag. He was full of wonder. And at one point, he was on the White Sea, and he discovered, well, he didn't discover, he worked out how to derive iodine from this algae that grew in the sea. And then he convinced the people at the gulag, the guys that ran it, to build a factory to extract the iodine from the sea algae, which they thought, okay, yeah, we can make some money, right? The factory exists to this day, and that they use everywhere in the world the same technique that he developed. And he was a prisoner when he did that.
Yeah.
He couldn't stop being full of wonder. And then another thing he did was he met this indigenous tribe in Siberia at a gulag. I guess they had some free reign or whatever. I don't know. And he was so fascinated by them because they had stories that he learned their language. Okay, he learned their language. And then he was so fascinated by them because they had stories that were like similar to the scriptures. So he developed an alphabet for them because they had no written language.
Wow.
And after 10 years of moving this man around and stop doing good things, okay, for these people, stop doing things to help people feel better and get better, and stop ministering. No, he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They shot him in the head and threw him in a mass grave, and no one knows where he's buried to this day.
Mm.
So when I'm reading his book, I ask him to help me understand what it is he wants to say. What is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
Make things shine for me, you know.
You're right.
When I read St. Ephraim's book, Hymns on Paradise, I do the same thing before I even open it.
Yeah.
Because as an Orthodox Christian, I can ask the saints to help me understand what they wanted to say.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have to wonder.
Right. Well, and yeah, you have that story from St. John Chrysostom where St. Paul is whispering in his ear.
Yeah.
And his ear is incorrupt to this day. You can still see the ear of St. John Chrysostom.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously St. John Chrysostom had a lot of insight into the scriptures. He did commentary on many books in the scriptures. But even then, he was asking for St. Paul to help him, and St. Paul was whispering in his ear what it meant, helping him extrapolate what it meant.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, with the same is on offer to us.
Yeah, take advantage,
Agreed.
folks.
Yes.
It's like a free trial. Prime Video, like how fast do we click on that?
Right.
Anyway, it's great. It's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
Amen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He had a wife and I think 5 kids.
Mm.
And at one point, he was able to get them to move. I think it was when he I just know this from Eugene, when he discovered this indigenous tribe, and he was just so enthralled by them because he wanted to write down their stories. So he had to develop an alphabet, and he asked his wife and kids to come and stay there with him, and they got to be together for a short time. But I think it was shortly after that they executed him.
Mm. Oh, I have an ESV Church History Study Bible, and Chrysostom is one of my favorite commentators. Yeah, he does extensive commentary. You know who else? So St. John Chrysostom and St. Bede also did a commentary on, if not all, almost all of the scriptures. St. Bede did a commentary on. So you can find it on the interwebs for free, because it's, he did it in like the 6th century. So if you could track it down, St. Bede's commentary on the scriptures is unrivaled. It's very good as well.
Really, I've
very
never read.
helpful.
Yeah, we should cover
what's
him.
that?
We should
St.
cover
Bede?
St. Bede when we finish the Heliand, because he's very he's part of that world, right?
Yes, I would love to do that. We'll definitely do that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a whole episode just on St. Bede.
Yeah.
He had he was a very significant contributor, because he wrote the ecclesiastical history of the church as well. Or the ecclesiastical history of the church in England. So, and that's a great read as well. So,
have you read it?
Yes.
Wow. Cool. Yeah.
So. Well, I think I got to call it a night.
Yeah.
My alarm goes off early.
I got to go and let out animals, feed other animals, and
oh yeah, you still got like 3 hours of daylight up there.
Well, what time is it now? It is
it's 8:00 your time.
Yeah, 8:00. Well, no, it's not 3 hours. It was
I was being facetious.
9:30.
On the lighter side, the commentary with the most amusing name is Wolfgang Musculus.
Upcycle's here.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome. Good evening.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we sign off?
That sounds good. Thank all of you for joining us for our inaugural stream on the new channel, Restoring Meaning.
Woo-hoo!
We're glad you're with us.
Yeah.
We love you all, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing over here, and it'll probably grow. And I've got some other things in mind that I want to work on. I'm sure Sherry will also branch out. Sherry has free reign here on the channel to do whatever she'd like, and we'll just follow the stream where it runs down the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah.